You've probably been hearing people talk about scrape hunting strategy lately, or maybe you've even heard the term scrape week popping up over different podcasts and across social media. And there's good reason for it. Mid to late October is when scrapes really start heating up. But here's the biggest challenge. Scrapes are showing up everywhere right now. So how do you know exactly which ones are worth hunting? What exactly is the difference between a scrape that produces good, consistent daylight activity and one that might just be good for intel? And what does a true high odds scrape setup actually look like on a map? That's exactly what we're going to break down in this video. I'm going to help you understand the different types of scrapes that you'll see in the woods, which ones you should be hunting and which ones might be better left for observation, and walk you through 3 different stand locations that are built around scrapes to help you build a game plan for the rest of October. By the way, I'm Greg Kazmierski. I design and improve whitetail properties that create predictable opportunities. I help hunters across the state of Ohio buy and sell hunting land, and I'm building a community of growth-minded whitetail hunters who are looking to take their strategy and success to the next level. So let's dive in. Let's start off by defining exactly what a scrape is for any of the new hunters that might be watching or anybody that might need a quick refresher. A scrape is an area on the ground where a buck clears away the leaves and debris with his hooves, then he'll go ahead and urinate in that scrape and then often rub his scent glands on an overhanging branch, many times called the licking branch. It's basically deer's communication hub. You can think of it a lot like our social media feeds. It's where deer come in, leave messages, leave sign behind, just to let each other know what's going on, who's in the area, and how everybody's feeling. Now, to simplify things, I put scrapes into 2 different categories: primary scrapes and secondary scrapes. Primary scrapes are the ones that I personally like to target for hunting setups in October. These primary scrapes are typically larger and show signs of annual use, something like a worn down licking branch. And they're usually located in key areas like the edge of bedding or around a natural travel funnel created by the terrain or the habitat. These scrapes get consistent activity, which makes them reliable. Secondary scrapes, on the other hand, tend to pop up in random locations throughout the woods. These scrapes are often smaller and short-lived, maybe only active for a few days or a week at a time throughout the entirety of a season. While I've had success hunting them before, the movement around these scrapes is usually more unpredictable, making it harder to build the strategy around. You'll often find these scrapes in places like transition zones, that meeting point in between an active bedding area and a fresh, hot food source, or in areas where bucks are starting to ramp up their searching behavior when looking for does. Now, these scrapes can give you valuable intel, but they're not always going to be the best place to hang a stand. So when you're out there scouting or you're looking for a hunting setup, think of those primary scrapes as potential locations for stands and secondary scrapes as information points. Both are valuable, but they serve very different purposes in your overall strategy. Now, I'm going to cover these setups in the order that I like to hunt them as we move along throughout October. There are plenty of different ways to approach scrape hunting, and by no means am I saying that this is the only right way. It's just what I've found success with and something that I feel like you can build the strategy around. The first scrape that we're targeting is one just outside of a known buck bedding area. I like to focus on these in early to mid-October, as these are often the scrapes where bucks become vulnerable first in daylight. Early to mid-October, when bucks are not fully committed to chasing does yet, they're still on somewhat of a predictable routine, very short bed to food patterns, with the often stop at one of these scrape locations. And that's what makes these scrape locations close to known buck bedding areas such great opportunities. So here's an example. We've got this large section of timber that was cut within the last 5 years, and it's since grown back into thick, brushy cover, perfect for bedding habitat. From past scouting I've done in the area and trail camera data, it's very clear that bucks consistently use this area to bed throughout much of the year. Right on the edge of the cut, there's a well-established scrape. This is a frequent first stop for these bucks as they get on their feet and exit the bedding area. Our approach here is to use the terrain, specifically the steep drainage, to secure clean access into our stand location. That keeps our entry quiet and our scent out of the core bedding area while giving us a perfect vantage point over the scrape. Now, this type of setup tends to to start lighting up more in the middle of October, when these bucks are still on a consistent pattern but tend to get more active in daylight. This is definitely an aggressive move for you, but it's an opportunity to fill your tag before most other hunters even start considering hunting over scrapes. Next, we're going to take a look at a scrape along the edge of a doe bedding area, a setup that really starts to shine towards the end of October when bucks become more active in their search for does. Now, these scrapes have one very important element that determine how effective they are, and that's the wind. For a scrape setup like this to work, the wind needs to be blowing from that doe bedding area towards the scrape. And that's because bucks love to scent check these doe bedding areas from the downwind side. It's the most effective way for them to move through multiple bedding areas while staying just on the edge of that core habitat where the majority of the does are bedded. Adding in scrapes along these travel routes becomes one of the most effective stand locations for the end of October. When bucks are on their feet more and start to become more territorial, these are perfect checkpoints for them to verify which does may be ready to breed. Let's go ahead and look at a real world example from a property that I worked on here in Ohio. So this setup has everything stacked perfectly. A destination food source, an adjacent doe bedding area, and a travel corridor deeper in the timber beyond the two, with a primary scrape positioned right along the travel route. The hunter can access this stand cleanly from the property line, away from the core deer habitat. The anticipated buck travel stays right where we want it, between the stand and the doe bedding. This means that when the wind blows from the destination food source to the doe bedding and then to the scrape, the buck is downwind of all of that doe activity, and the hunter is perfectly downwind of the buck. When all of those pieces line up, bedding, food, wind, and access, this becomes one of the most effective stand locations that you can have on your entire property at the end of October. And if you're interested in taking a little bit deeper look at the full design of this property, I actually put together a YouTube video a little bit earlier in the fall. I'll go ahead and link that here. Now, if you've been following me on social media for a while, it's no surprise that my all-time favorite terrain feature to target scrapes at are drainage tops. The flatter area along the upper edge of a steep and narrow drainage are some of the best locations for cruising activity. If there's already a natural scrape in this location, great. But if not, I'll often create a mock scrape just to encourage that buck to swing a few yards closer into bow range. Now, here's an example. We've got a drainage top that's positioned directly between two logging cuts of different ages. Now, these cuts have proven to be doe hangouts, and because there's a fair amount of hunting pressure that accesses from the ridge tops, buck movement gets funneled down into these lower elevations. Even though it's a long access into this stand location, it is absolutely worth it. This setup is one that I've found consistently sees activity from multiple bucks towards the end of October as they cruise through the security cover between those doe social areas. Just like in our scrape near buck bedding example, the key to this stand location is secure access. We slip up the drainage quietly, using the terrain to keep our scent contained and maintaining a clear vantage point of the scrape inside comfortable bow range. Now, the beauty of a setup like this is that it remains productive into the early parts of November. Even when bucks might start to lose interest in freshening up those scrapes, they're still going to use these travel funnels to actively check on does. So there you have it, 3 different scrape setups that shine at different points in October. A scrape near buck bedding that gives you that aggressive early to mid-October opportunity. A scrape near the edge of doe bedding that starts to heat up towards the end of the month. And finally, a scrape in a terrain funnel that can remain productive even into the early parts of November. Each of these setups works for the same exact reason. We have secure access, the wind is right, and there's a reason for these deer to naturally want to flow through the area in daylight. If you can stack those 3 factors together, you're going to consistently find yourself in the right location when it matters the most. Now, if you enjoyed this breakdown, we're taking it one step further in the Next Level Whitetail School community. We're releasing a full scrape hunting masterclass course, diving deeper into advanced scrape strategies, mock scrape setups, and how to build your own scrape-based hunting system wherever it is you hunt. You can join the community today, get access to that course, our Q&A sessions, and all of the other deep dive whitetail strategy content designed to help you take your strategy and success to the next level. Thank you all for watching. As the scrapes continue to heat up, best of luck out there. It's such a fun time to be in the woods. I'll see you guys in the next one.